It's the first Friday edition of the Ganzobomb Wrestling Podcast. I have finally managed to get my ass in gear. I have managed to break AEW Dynamite down on a Friday. Well, before the Friday. I am prepped. I am ready. We're going to do this. Like I said a few weeks ago, I want to change the schedule on this channel. I wanted to move my AEW Dynamite reviews to a Friday, because it's closer to Wednesday, and therefore there's less time before people find out what happens and they might want to actually watch this. And it frees up my Saturday afternoon for gaming, which I can do in a more hungover state, which means I can drink more gin tonight. This is an absolute win. I mean, I'm not like some sort of alcoholic that joneses for gin every day, but my New Year's resolution was to drink gin. I have been doing a great job at sticking to my New Year's resolution, and yeah, recording this on a Friday helps with that. So this is great. This means that tomorrow I will be playing games on the channel. I'm not sure what I'll be playing, but I'll be playing games. So I'll be playing something interesting in the very least. And before I continue, this evening at 7 p.m, you need to go to Sinan Kosei's channel on Twitch. You can see me, I'm on it regularly. If you go to the Voice Britannia Twitter page, you'll see the link to this. Tonight, Sinan Kosei is holding a panel discussion on Star Wars. He has got together a group of some of the most esteemed Star Wars geeks in the left-wing shitposting scene to come and talk about Star Wars. I'm hyped for this. I fucking love Star Wars. I was going to try and not swear today, but that's clearly out the window. I love Star Wars. I love talking about Star Wars. I love Star Wars theory crafting. I love just talking about Star Wars as if it's a real universe. And much in the same way I like talking about wrestling as if it's real. So yeah, if you're free tonight, 7 o'clock, go to Sinan Kosei's channel. If you don't know how to get there, like I say, check the Voice Britannia Twitter page, twitter.com/Voice Britannia. You'll also find all the information on my personal Twitter. That's at SteveSmithVB. And if all that fails, I'm pretty sure that if I'm not streaming, I host Sinan's channel anyway. So as long as you come to this channel, you should be able to find it. So you will be able to find it. This will be entertainment, and you should watch it, especially if you like Star Wars. So welcome to the show. I'll get the housekeeping out of the way. Please follow the channel if you are not already following. If you can subscribe, please subscribe, because every subscription helps. I don't really have enough to make a living yet, but we're close. 2 is more than 1. 1 is more than nothing. So the build has started. We are on the way to getting subscribers and followers. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, which quite a few people do watch these later on YouTube, then just hit subscribe. And no matter where you watch this, take the link, whether it's the link twitch.tv/Voice Britannia, or the video on demand link, or the YouTube link, and please post it on your Twitter account, post it on your Facebook timeline, post it in your favourite Discord groups, because this is the only way that we can spread the word. Discovery on Twitch is next to impossible. That is how people just randomly find you, people with the same sort of interests. It is amazingly difficult on Twitch. So yeah, this is the only way I can really become discovered by other people. So if you're watching this, if you like wrestling, if you like what you hear, or if you just think, hey, that guy's crap, you should go and laugh at him, post the link. I'm cool with that. And I need the eyes. This ends my begging for today. Now, before I get into the AEW chat, I also heard this week that Conan, the wrestler, is unwell. He's in hospital. That's not cool. I just want to say get well soon to Conan. Well, I think he's alright. He randomly contacted me for no reason to ask something. I can't remember what it was he asked, but he a couple of months ago, he just randomly messaged me. Then I randomly messaged him back. And he actually replied, and had a very small back and forth. There's big gaps, but he actually got back. I could not believe it. And the last thing he said was his manager's thing to get him on an interview. Quite frankly, I don't want to interview someone like Conan whilst I've only got 20 or 30 viewers per week. So hopefully Conan gets better. hopefully we get more viewers, and hopefully I would love to interview Conan, not just because he's a really good wrestler, but he's a really good booker, yeah, backstage sort of guy in the wrestling industry. Someone I'd really like to speak to, actually. So get well, Conan. Hope you're doing all right. And that's that little bit. So let's get on to AEW for this week, the 17th of February 2021. Now, before we go any further, the ratings, so I normally talk about the ratings at the top of the show or the end. I actually said top of the show. I hate that phrase. Yeah, the ratings were not released at the normal time this week. It was, I think, in America, it was President's Day, Bank Holiday on the Monday. And bank holidays mean that the people that deal with the ratings have breakdowns of sorts. Like, it's insane. It is pretty crazy how they, like, one day off sends their rating systems out of sync for a week and a half. But this is just what happens. So we don't know the official ratings for AEW or NXT this Wednesday. Now, that said, Pro Wrestling Torch have released leaked ratings, which have showed both the NXT and AEW scores. Now, whilst there's some contention of what they've actually reported, they are saying they're showing the total overall viewers for both shows, and both viewers surprisingly fell in the mid 750k total viewers range. For NXT, this is good. That's a boost on the last few weeks. They've went back up from newly being around 500k to 700k. But for AEW, if this rating is correct, and AEW has sunk back down to the 700,000 total viewers area, then that's not good at all. That is a really weak score. Now, this week's AEW, I think it was a bit of a sleeper show, actually. It was really good. I don't know how you would explain that. I mean, by this point, AEW should be starting to build up. I would have thought AEW as a brand, I mean, obviously the pandemic slows things down. We've had a lot of news, which always seems to happen on a Wednesday, but there was no news this week, so there's none of those excuses don't work or hold water this week. AEW should be building viewers. They shouldn't be going back down to these levels now. Like, this is what, a year and a half the show's been running. Now, we don't know the ratings here, so we don't know what was top or bottom or whatever. It's most likely, because this happens most week, that AEW was in the top 5 shows in cable TV on Wednesday. So, whilst the ratings might be low, there's maybe a reason for it. And at the same time, they're probably still quite high in the ratings, but it's not good. I don't think it's good anyway. I'm not media's my thing, but I'm not a total expert on, like, ratings and how the demographics push and work and what should be happening with that. And obviously, when you talk about ratings, this is one thing that gets missed out a lot in the conversations. You've got to balance it with, like, the ratings are relative to a degree, you know? It's like, it's all very well, like, a show sinking from 2 million views a week to 750 views a week. That sort of high percentage drop wouldn't be good. That would look really bad on paper. But if every other show on TV is also dropping that amount, then the relative drop is not that much, because it's the entirety of TV that's losing viewership and not necessarily that show. So I'm just rambling a bit now. Really, though, we need to wait for Showbuzz or one of the other official sources of statistics to release the official stats, and then we'll know what's happening. Then we can have a proper chat about the ratings for this week and what's happening, who's gone what's gone where, what's gone bad, what's gone not. So let's go on to the show. Now, I'm hoping that this week's review will go a bit quicker. I have slightly changed the way I write the reviews, how I do the reviews. Like, in the last first section of shows I've done on this Ganzobomb Wrestling AEW podcast reviews, I broke the matches down into the intro, the start, the middle, the end, and really, like, looked at the matches, talked about a lot of moves in a play-by-play sort of way. I'm going to try and not do that because it takes a long time. Now, let me know what you think at the end of the show. If you think this sort of technique works, if you think it doesn't work, I'm dying to know. But I'm hoping that it cuts the show down to about an hour long, as opposed to an hour and a half long, which we have been doing consistently. So, the match. Well, the show kicked off with Matt Hardy and Hangman Page versus TH2. Now, originally this match was announced as Matt Hardy, Private Party, and Hangman versus TH2 and Chaos Project, but Private Party were unsuccessful at the weekend at winning the Impact Tag Team Championships from the Good Brothers. At that show, Hardy displayed a massive amount of dissatisfaction with Private Party, and the match was then changed to this, where Private Party was cut out of the match. Now, the obvious thing looking at it is like Hardy's obviously annoyed. He's not speaking to Private Party. He doesn't want to do anything with him, and that's fair enough. But whatever the story was behind it, we didn't really know it. We weren't really told. But the show kicked off with this match anyway. So, whilst the entrances were happening, Hardy was in the ring. We were reminded of the contract situation from last week, where Hardy, who was trying to scam Hangman, was scammed by Hangman. Hangman obviously saw the scam coming. He swapped, like Hardy was trying to get him drunk, then get him to sign the contract that would give him 30% of his earnings. Hangman saw this coming, and when Hardy wasn't looking, he pulled out his own contract and got Hardy to sign the contract. Hardy then ran away with the contract and did not read it. We are told the stipulations for this contract at the end of the match. The match was good. Spoilers for this review. I thought every match on the night show was good. There literally was not a bad match on this show. Now, obviously, what is a good match and what is a bad match is very subjective, but in my humble opinion, there was no bad matches on this show. None at all. So this was a perfect opener. It wasn't a long match. It wasn't a technically insane match. It wasn't a 5-star brawl. It was just a good match. Just a good, solid match. And yeah, every match in the show was good. End of review. Thanks for watching. I jest. It was a fun match. A perfect opening match, in my opinion. It was full of energy, star power. Hardy is at heart a tag worker, and it seems he's always best in this situation. Like, Hardy is great in tag matches and the cinematic matches. That's where he excels. And on top of that, he seems to have a really good in-ring chemistry with Hangman. So this match was really good, and the connection with Hangman and Hardy bodes well for the future. Hardy and Angelico looked good in the match. Hangman as always looked awesome. He just looks so much better than other people in the matches he's been in lately. I don't even think he can help it. Evans, he overshot a few aerial spots. He went a bit too far in some areas. But as per usual, he just looked as energetic as he usually does. So it was all good. I really liked the finish to this match. Hangman, like, TH2 were working on Hardy in the ring. They were double teaming Hardy, and Hangman made the save with a double buckshot lariat to Angelico and Evans at the same time. Big thing like that. And then he hit the buckshot, then he instantly got out of the ring, leaving Matt, like giving Matt the win, letting Matt get the pin. Which was interesting. It was like, oh, so Hangman's giving the pin. He's happy to do this. Okay. Hangman looked really happy on the outside. He was all smiles. He looked elated. We then get all the celebrations happen. Hardy grabs a mic. Hardy and Hangman are in the ring. I mean, I'm sure I've got pictures for this. I should remember to change these things. Hangman asked Hardy if he had read the contract last week. And you know, the one we were talking about before. Hardy says, no, he didn't. He just got the contract to his lawyers as soon as he can. Because obviously he thought he had the scam in the bag. He thought he had scammed Hangman. So Hangman thinks it's about time he told Hardy what was in the contract. So he calls out his legal team, which turns out to be the Jags mascot. It's a big mascot thing. Which just happened to have a copy of the contract that Hardy signed last week. Okay, it's wrestling. I can deal with that. Hangman somehow met this guy backstage. He was like, can you hold this for me? Okay, cool. I can suspend disbelief for that. It's a contract, isn't it? It turns out that instead of Hardy signing a contract to fleece Hangman out of 30% of his earnings, he instead signed a contract for a match at Revolution against Hangman. Now, the The stimulation of this is actually hilarious. The stimulation of the match is that if Hangman beats Hardy at Revolution, he gets all of Matt Hardy's first quarter 2021 earnings, which has to be the most bizarre stipulation I have maybe ever heard for a match. Now, like first quarter earnings for first quarter earnings match. I don't think Triple A's ever did this one, you know? I mean, it's a really specific contract. It works. Hardy's a big money Matt. He's all about the money. He's all about making the kazash. Hangman's exploiting this. It's good. But I mean, hold up a second. This got me thinking, like, we have not even got to the first quarter of 2021 yet. That does not start until April the 1st. So, the loser of this match could essentially just go on a 3-month holiday, or with some crafty accounting, they could probably just work for the first quarter of 2021 and defer all earnings to the second quarter so it doesn't get counted in the first quarter, or they could loan someone everything they expect to earn and get it all paid back in loans. Then it's not earnings, it's a loan repayment. There's ways around this. There's many possibilities. Perhaps Hangman has not been as clever as he thought he has been. I think Hangman's GameStop experience and his brief flirtation with the stock markets has gone to his head. I mean, this contract is actually quite a terrible idea. As a bit of creative bookkeeping, you can easily get out of this. Regardless, the money match is set. It is a literal money match. It has been set for Revolution on the 7th of March. Why not? It's a good idea. I like it. Hardy goes to shake Hangman's hand to agree to the match. But when he does, the Jags mascot attacks Hangman. It turns out that randomly, for some reason, we don't know what... Let's just suspend disbelief for a minute and just go with the fact that it happened. Isaiah Cassidy turns out to be in the mascot suit. And he starts to attack Hangman. Hardy then shouts over to TH2, "I'll give you $3,700 if you beat up Hangman right now." So they get in and started beating him up. The bad guys all started beating him up. Hangman is getting a kick in before the entire Dark Order came out to make the save. With -1 with them calling the shots from the stage. I think -1's great. It's like, I love that they're going with this whole like child emperor gimmick, and it's tied into the Dark Order lore that whilst they've got a leader or whatever like that, there's this child emperor who like sits in the background and berates them and tells them to do everything. I think it works. It's fun. Why not do it? It's different. It works. So yeah, the Dark Order chased all the heels away. Everyone gets chased away. 5 squared up to Matt Hardy. It was great. In the end, the entire Dark Order was standing in the ring with Hangman, like face to face. Hangman just looks at him and he smiles. It's like, it was such a good reaction. Like, it looked like he was realizing that he can be friends with them. Like, he doesn't need to be in a team, but these people are maybe actually good people, and he's maybe just thinking it over too much, and everyone leaves the ring smiling. It's like he realizes that the Dark Order maybe are actually just want to be friends. Maybe this is what he needs in life. Maybe it's what Hangman needs. I have no idea where this is all going. But with Hardy, the money match, the focus on Hangman allying with the Dark Order. I mean, they need a new leader, or do they? I don't know. The whole thing's great. I mean, it's perfect AEW type storytelling. It literally could go anyway. But for now, let's focus on the money match. This was a great way to open the show, I thought. A good portion of action, a great slice of slow story, and a match for the pay-per-view. What is not to love? We then go backstage to a promo with the entire Inner Circle. Santana and Ortiz are getting focused for their match tonight because, of course, they've got a title shop. They say it is their time. 18 months they have been in AEW, but they've not had a title shot yet. I mean, can you actually believe that? I cannot believe that. Ortiz says that they are the illest, and I agree. They are a bloody good team. MJF then starts cutting a promo about Sammy, shouting and screaming at the camera, demanding an apology, but Jericho stops him, tells him to shut up. He's like, look, everyone can see what you did. Everyone can see what you were doing to Sammy. You were goading him. This is mainly your fault. It's mainly your fault that Sammy is left. which is obviously good. 'Cause Jericho tells me, he's like, look, we've been watching the show. We can all watch the show. We can all watch the show. This bullshit doesn't work. Like, this might have worked in old wrestling, but not here. People are clever in AEW. It makes sense. Now, Jericho goes on and he says, although, well, this is all MJF's fault, Sami has made the biggest circle of his life because he has left the inner circle. He's quit the inner circle and he is now dead to Jericho. Cruel stuff. We've heard nothing from Sammy Guevara yet. He's not been on Impact. He's not been on AEW. We've not heard anything else from him on AEW's social media. Now, I don't watch Sammy's blog. There's probably something there. I should probably watch it later on. But yeah. We probably won't hear nothing from Sammy for a few weeks. Who knows if he'll be back for Revolution or if they'll take this story on a bit longer. But it's good. We've got something. I mean, again, this is perfect AEW stuff. You've got the whole Sammy bit. It's like, where's this going to go? Like, the inner circle all know that MJF is a toxic person and he's causing their group to split. But like, this is a really weird dynamic. I like it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Of course, I really need to work out how to get these things to change on their own. That would be great. Now, let me have a little sip of coffee quickly. Next up on this week's show, we had one of the AEW Women's Championship Tournament matches in the first round of the USA bracket. Thankfully, the first round is nearly over because that is an absolute mouthful to say. So this was Serena Deeb versus the returning Rio. Rio hasn't been on AEW in, I think it's like 9 months, 10 months, something like that, a lot. Basically, the pandemic stopped her being able to come to America and stuff, as you would expect. And she's back. She's back in the USA. She's back on AEW TV. So I had high expectations for this match, and by hell were they realised. This was a great match. Just bloody awesome. It's for the third, maybe fourth week on the bounce. The women's match on the show was one of the best matches on the show. In terms of wrestling, match storytelling, the whole lot. It was just brilliant. I think now, right, we can safely say that this whole AEW women's division is not as strong as it should be comment just no longer holds water. That may have been true in the early stages at AEW, but now it is just not true in the slightest because some of the women's matches they have been shown lately have been amazing, and this was no exception. From the very start, the quality of the wrestling in this match and the feeling of competitiveness, which is something that's often lost in wrestling, was just top notch. It was outstanding. Usually, Rio, like, she's quite small. She's usually quite smaller than her opponents, but Serena, whilst she's bigger than Rio, she is still she's quite short. She's quite slender as well. So she's much closer in stature to Rio than others in the company are and other people and other females are, which made this a really good clash of styles. It was really good. It really felt like a competition. Now, Deeb came into this match with an injury, a hurt knee. Now, I've got no idea how serious this is. I've heard that it is a real injury, but I don't know how real it is. I don't know anything like that. But very quickly, this was worked into the match, and this became a focus of the match. This became one of the main story elements of the match, and it really worked. There was a point during, like, as you can see there, like, during the whole match, Serena was, like, as you can see in the picture above, Serena was selling her knee the whole time, and Rio was using that. Like, for instance, there was one spot where Rio was behind Serena with, like, I think it was like a headlock or something, and she stepped on, like, this, you can't see my mouse pointer, but she stepped on the back of her knee to pull her down, and it caused selling. It was just great. It was great. I mean, there was a point during the picture-in-picture as well where, obviously, this was during the advert, so it wasn't on TV, but it was, you could see this on the Fight app and stuff. She had the doctor come in, check her leg and stuff like that. Now, I don't know if her leg was hurt and she needed it checked there, but from a story aspect, it fucking worked because it told everyone in the arena and everyone watching that, she's hurt. Like, she's hurt. And in wrestling, sometimes the best story is the simplest, and the story of one person having an injury against someone that doesn't works. It is a perfect wrestling story because the person with the injury has got to try and fight from underneath, try and fight through the injury and fight their opponent. It's just perfect. It adds a great layer of drama to a match. The finish to the match came after a blinding series of roll-ups, counters, counter pins, counter roll-ups, and it just everyone seemed to get more creative and more creative. Rio got the final roll-up pin to get the win. She just hit her, I'm not sure what it's called. It is a roll-up. There is an actual name to it. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Rio does it quite a bit. It's one where you catch someone's arms with your legs and you pin them like that. It works. Rio got the pin. Rio goes through to the next round of the tournament. Like I said at the start, I really liked this match. It was a really good showing by both competitors. Rio progressing felt right to me. Both in terms of this match, the competitiveness, but in the tournament as a whole, right? I have a feeling that the final is going to feature Thunder Rosa because from the American side of the bracket, that is, for the simple reason that she is on fire at the moment. She is the best female wrestling competitor in North America, maybe the world at the moment. So for me, it stands to reason that she is going to be in that next round. So she will have to fight Britt Baker. Now, if she beat Britt Baker, or if she is to beat Britt Baker, if Serena Deeb had won this match, that would mean that in the semi-finals we would have had Serena Deeb versus Thunder Rosa. Now, that would be good, except for the fact that Serena Deeb is the current NWA Women's Champion, and Thunder Rosa very publicly is chasing for that belt. So that would have gave us the NWA Women's title match, technically, even if it wasn't for a title before they could have it, having it in a tournament as opposed to having it in the match. And that just wouldn't work. I mean, you could work it in, you could give one of them the win and say, well, I beat you in the tournament. Clearly, you've got no chance of beating me for the belt. But I think it's probably best to keep those two elements away from each other. And they did. So it's a problem that exists merely in my head. Now, after this part, and before Orange Cassidy comes in, there was a Jade Cargill and Shaq promo video. Now, this was advertised as a training video. I didn't really write anything about this. I forgot to take a picture about it because when I was doing the write-up, I just forgot about it completely. When I was doing the second watch through, whatever, I wrote about it, I forgot. Because there was no wrestling in it. We seen Jade Cargill come in. She looks like the physical specimen that she is, ready to kick ass. We see Shaq, and then they're just playing basketball. They're like shooting hoops. I think Jade does a couple of runs up and down the court. It's like they're not playing basketball. Where's the wrestling in here? There was no wrestling here at all. So I didn't write about it. I didn't feel the need to write about it. It just was there. It was a pretty useless promo, if you ask me. I mean, I've expressed my feelings on this angle a lot in the last few weeks. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm glad that it's going to be done in 2 weeks' time and we can move on from it. But I would like to see it succeed. I would like them to see AEW and Cody incorporate Shaq into something and attract new viewers to this show. It is needed. So, whilst I don't think the match, I'm not holding my hopes high for the match, I do really, really hope the segment works. And I want to see it succeed. I really want to see it succeed because AEW needs viewers. If it builds viewerships, that's how it builds. It needs to happen. So fingers crossed it works, but I don't think it will. In the promo video, it was just a video. They were playing basketball, not wrestling. Moving on to the next match on today's card, it was Orange Cassidy with Chuck A.T. versus Luther and Serpentico, my favourite word in the show, aka the Chaos Project. Now, Orange has not been on TV a while, so it's good to see him move a bit more than he usually does, because I mean, when we see Orange, he's usually close to sleeping or sleeping, so it's good to see him actually moving about, because bless him, Orange is very good at moving about when he tries, so Orange moved. Win. This was basically a light squash. Well, maybe not a squash, as Orange did get powerbombed. But the match was something to remind us that Orange Cassidy is awesome and that he can beat people with ease. So it was fun for what it was. There was nothing overly special. It was just fun. The match started with Luther throwing Chucky T off the apron, and then Serpentico did a dive onto Chuck and beat him up a bit on the outside. Just to keep him busy, I guess. I don't know. The distraction of Serpentico taking on Chucky T allowed Luther to powerbomb Orange Cassidy in the middle of the ring. He then ripped his t-shirt off, tried to choke him, and tried to choke Orange with his own t-shirt, which is like, you could see that as a really bad thing, but in the other thing, then I guess that's Orange set for the summer. I mean, all he needed to do really was get rid of the t-shirt, put the jacket back on. Summer look. The perfect Orange Cassidy summer look. So everything in this match changed when they got to the apron. Luther was setting Orange up for like a power bomb on the apron. But Orange did one of the simplest counters and it looked great. Basically, they were set up for the power bomb on the apron. Orange's head was between Luther's legs. He was a way to pick him up. And all Orange did was he just ducked. He just calmly went to a knee, crawled through Luther's legs, dropped to the floor, and power bombed him off the apron onto the padding on the outside. I loved it. It was so simple. It was just like, he didn't rush it. He didn't overthink it. He's like, okay, I'll just duck through here, go down here, boom. Fucking great. So while the match was outside, Chuck got Serpentico in the ring and gave him an awful waffle. Why? Because it's cool. That's why. It's wrestling. Wrestling moves are cool. Pile drivers are cool. Serpentico got the shit awful waffled out of him. And it was bloody cool. That's why. Luther got back in the ring slowly, but perfectly timed into the Orange Punch. That is Orange Cassidy's Superman punch for the win. Freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy is back in action. He is moving. He is winning. Now, I am really hoping that this is the start of like a build to like Orange Cassidy versus Miro on a pay-per-view. I think Miro versus Orange Cassidy has like potential to be an absolutely great match. I think it would be hilarious. I think it would be a lot like the Pac and Orange Cassidy match. I think it was from last Revolution, which was like one of my favourite matches of the last year of wrestling. This could be great. It's good. It's good to see them. I mean, they're clearly getting Orange Cassidy back in action for something. He's not wrestled for. I've not seen him on Dark in a month and wrestling for about a month, and this is the first time I've seen him wrestling on TV in months. So clearly they're getting him warmed up for something. They're getting his character ready. They're showing us that Orange can move again. So fingers crossed this progresses on to a Miro versus Orange Cassidy fight on a pay-per-view. I want to see that. So next up we have the quick Darby / Sting Street Fight promo / Team Taz section. So this starts with a video showing the last 4 weeks of Sting or Darby or anyone else calling out Team Taz. We've seen a lot of this, you know. I was expecting this to lead straight into our weekly Sting calls out Team Taz segment, but instead, no, swerve. Team Taz were making their way to the ring, and they called out Sting. Fucking shaking things up in AEW this week, aren't we? God. So there was no Hobbs. Why? No Hobbs or Starks? Yeah, there was no Hobbs or Starks this week due to snow. Darby was not on the show either, so either he is snowed in or he is still dead from being dragged around in a body bag from last week. I'm going to say snow, but would have heard if he was dead. Taz blames Sting for the snow, which is currently crippling most of the capital of modern capitalism, the US of A. A valid joke, I thought. Maybe not. I'll maybe leave the jokes for another day, but yeah. Taz blames the snow. I thought that was a fair joke. The joke about capitalism is just, nah. We'll save that for the political streams. Sting comes out. We get the usual stuff. Sting looks moody. He's got a baseball bat. Except this week, Taz, straight up, well, he doesn't call him a pussy, but he insinuates that Sting is the pussy for carrying a baseball bat around him. So Sting, Stupid. He throws the bat down. And then he tries fighting with Hook, Brian frickin' Cage, and Taz. Like, in the scale, in the realms of bad ideas, this is probably one of the worst. Even if you were the size of Brian Cage, I would not recommend fighting Brian Cage. What the fuck? Brian Cage progressed to powerbomb the living crap out of Sting. I could not believe this. Like, it just shocked the shit out of me. Like, he really, really powerbombed him. I was like, whoa, what? Sting has had some pretty serious back issues in the last 10 years. And my gut tells me he should probably not be doing stuff like this. However, my gut is not a doctor, and my gut has no real idea of how fit Sting is in terms of fitness and health. So hopefully Sting is okay. But building to the pay-per-view now, Taz has now taken out both Team Taz has now taken out both Darby and Sting with relative ease. We're getting to the point where it looks like if Sting and Darby want to have any sort of fair fight with Team Taz, they're going to need even more backup, which is a bit ironic of Sting having to get backup, as he is meant to be there for backup. But these are the days we're living in. Darby keeps getting owned. His backup Sting now keeps getting owned. Where do we go from here? Do we need someone else to balance the teams up for the pay-per-view? Are we going to get a surprise here? I don't know. We could do. I hope so. I mean, I am starting to hope so, because this booking is starting to look a bit one-sided. It looks like there's nothing Sting and Darby can actually do to take out Team Taz. They need something to balance this out. So hopefully they get it. Like, hopefully, I mean, I don't know where we could get it. Could they call in someone from Japan? Could they call in someone from another promotion to balance things out? I don't know. I hope so. Fingers crossed. Hey, I mean, what if Raven comes in? What if we get Raven coming in to fight Team Taz? That just came out the top of my brain there now. I don't know how good an idea it is, but it would definitely get tongues wagging. It would definitely maybe get one more person to buy the pay-per-view, you know what I mean? A Taz and Raven face-off in 2021. That would be cool. I think that would be cool. Give me a phone, Tony. I'm looking for work. Next up, we had an Eddie Kingston promo. This promo was bloody great. Just go and watch it. As you can see in the background, this week the Butcher had his Gang Couture look on. It was very cool. Eddie hates everyone. This is another great promo. He calls Phoenix a waste of space. He just despises Archer. But Moxley is the one he has the most anger towards. It's his old friend. This is the demon he says he needs to get rid of most. This is awesome. The best line of this promo was just Eddie's like, Moxley is the demon I need to get rid of most. I can't get rid of him with drink, drugs, or women. I just need to beat him up. It's like, outstanding. What a line. Like, Eddie has been one of the best promos in wrestling for years. It's just that most of the wrestling world hasn't seen him. And segments like this just back that claim up. I cannot wait until we eventually get a full-on like Eddie Kingston, John Moxley blood feud. You know, with like a big build and a big pay-per-view match. As opposed to the past matches we've seen between the two, which really, whilst they were really good matches, they had no build. They were just random TV matches that relied on their backstory as opposed to building a big feud up and them both being presented as equals who are fighting for a championship or something like that. This is one, like, the Kingston-Mox feud, in my opinion, is one of the few really big money angles or like long-term story arcs that AEW are currently building, but they're not pulling the trigger on. So they're building it and holding it in their back pocket for a time when they maybe need it and they need some top-tier shit to happen. This is one of them. It's building in the background, slowly bubbling away, waiting for the day where it's going to entertain us and surprise us with something cool. Next on today's show, we had another promo segment. So thankfully, there wasn't as much promo segments on this week's show. It was actually, I found it a really easy show to watch. It was really cool. So, but we'll get to that at the end. So, this next segment, Kenny Omega goes to school. Now, I don't know why you can't see the book there. I've maybe not stretched it enough, but the book he's holding is the Young Bucks book, which is important here. So Kenny, for some reason, he's out and about trying to get some good PR. He's there with Don Callis. He's got some PR woman with him, and Marvez is there for some reason. Why? Just because he follows Kenny Omega about. That's cool. So Kenny is reading to children. He's got a group of kids in front of him. He's in like a play school sort of thing. And he wants to read the kids a section of a book by his bestest friends in the world, the Young Bucks. And, of course, he is reading a section of their Killing the Business book, which is all about him. Specifically about him and Chris Jericho. Now, one of the funniest bits of this segment was that before he starts reading, one of the kids asks him a question. The kid looks at the book, and he looks at the cover, and he sees the picture of the two Young Bucks, like, looking moody together, and he asks, are they in love? And Kenny's just like, she's like, I mean, yeah, they do look like in love. They're brothers, so they probably are in love. I thought it was hilarious. You gotta love that the pure innocent kids just see the two men on the front and think, oh, they're a couple. It's like, oh, they're brothers in this case. Hilarious. I loved it. Kenny goes on to read a paragraph from the book, which, as I said, is conveniently about the moment about the time period where the Jericho versus Omega, the first Jericho versus Omega match happened in New Japan business, and that when it happened, business drastically went up. Then, after literally that one paragraph, which was like 2 sentences long, Callis interjects and says, Uncle Kenny has run out of time, we need to leave. It's like Uncle Kenny, Uncle Don. Great. So they all start packing up, leaving. They're like, oh yeah, it's going to be a great bit of PR, blah, blah, blah. The kids then ask Kenny, well, they ask Don actually, if Kenny could come to play. Now, Don Callis is like, well, sorry, Uncle Kenny and Uncle Don are busy, but how about Nakazawa? You can play with Nakazawa. The kids proceed to start chanting, we hate Nakazawa, and then they beat the shit out of him. And it ended. Poor Nak. Poor Nak. It was it was actually a really funny segment. I enjoyed it. I guess Don Callis is trying to build PR for Kenny Omega. Who knows? Who knows why? But it worked. It was funny. Next up, we had a bloody outstanding match. Really, really good match. It's a Young Bucks match, so there's far too much stuff to talk about in this match. It was the Young Bucks versus Santana and Ortiz, aka the Proud and Powerful. This was for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. And yeah, guess what? This was also a great match. Santana and Ortiz were accompanied to the ring by the entire inner circle, although early into the match, MJF's anger, his hot-headedness, his loudness got them all ejected from ringside. That has got to play into the match later. That's got to play into something later on, because it can easily be argued that, well, if MJF hadn't been shooting his mouth off like a little prick, the inner circle would have been there to help Santana and Ortiz win. They had no backup, you know what I mean? I think this is all going to tie in at some point. MJF's just a toxic influence within that group. He's just screwing it all up. When the entrances were happening, we seen that the Young Bucks' mum and dad were both at ringside. I've heard stories about the Bucks' dad before, but I've never actually seen him on camera or anything like that. So it was good to put a name to the face. He was at ringside. That played into things later on in the match. Now, Santana and Ortiz are so bloody good. They could easily be tag team champions here or anywhere. They have that ability and the charisma where they're just one of those teams that could walk into literally any company, go into a title match, win the title in that company, and be totally believable in that role. They're that damn good. And this is something which I think is going to play into their future. Now, they could be tag team champs in AEW. They could easily do that. They could easily pull it off. But in the future, the forbidden doors are opened. And if any team could just go to Japan, go to any other company and win the belts there and have a really good run, it would be them. Like, I think it was Santana I was asking about, and like he was shouting out about going to Japan on Twitter. the Proud and Powerful would kick ass in New Japan. It would be really good to see them going after the IWGP heavyweight tag belts or something like that. I would be all about that. That would be awesome. I think it would kick ass. The Proud and Powerful also showed off some really, really cool and innovative tag team offense in this match. Like, stuff that I've never seen before. There were two notable moves. One of them, like, I can't remember. Well, both of them I can't remember seeing them before. They both started out in the position like the Magic Killer, so they were both holding a guy on their shoulders. Now, one of them, I'm going to gift these for the next time. One of them turned into like a flip, like they flipped him round into a neck breaker, and the other one was like a really big pendulum type slam. They were both awesome. I've never seen people doing that, and it's really cool to see a team working their ass off to not only have really good matches, but to create really innovative new offense. Outstanding, like top marks for that. It was a brilliant match. Ortiz is one of the few people, in my opinion, that does the Eddie Guerrero Three Amigos spots the same way as Eddie did. I just wanted to say that because he did it in this match and it looked great. Now, I know I really don't need to say it or remind anyone, but the Bucks are great, and in this match they were as great as they always were. It's like a no-brainer that any match they are in, they're going to put on a stellar performance. This is why they are known as the best team in the world to most people. There was nothing different to that last statement in this match. They were outstanding. There were some really, really good teases of a possible finish. Things that really made you think Santana or Ortiz could win the titles at any time. Like, there was this spot, it was like an avalanche Falcon arrow by Santana onto Nick Jackson. And then there was like the BTE, like the BTE trigger teased on Ortiz. There was just elements like this that made you think the match could go either way. Either team could win it at any point. You couldn't second guess where this match was going. You couldn't say, right, we're into the fire-ups now, we're into the hope spots, we're into the finish. You couldn't tell that. It was just one of those matches where it was a great competition and it just felt like people were trying to win constantly. The finish to this match came when Ortiz, as best as I can put it, effed up. He just effed up. Proud and Powerful had managed to throw Matt Jackson into the crowd, like over the barriers, and Nick was out in the ring, out cold or whatever. Well, not out cold, but he was down in the ring. Now, Ortiz had to go back into the ring to pin Nick, but instead of just getting in the ring as fast as he can and getting the pin, he was slow. He stood in the apron shouting, "The best, the best." And he gave Nick the time to recover. So as soon as he's got in the ring, Nick just grabbed him, rolled him up, boom, 1, 2, 3, finished, done. It was over. It was over. Now, during the match, we could see this, right? So, Kenny and the brothers and Don Callis were watching from backstage. Now, as you can see, they're watching in that crazy WWE way, which is, I'm pretty sure they do it deliberately for the joke of it, because it's just terrible. Like, who watches TVs like that? Kenny's almost got his back to the TV there. And this played into the match later on, because as soon as the match ended, the entire inner circle ran out and started beating the Young Bucks up. Now, as we've just said, and we can see there, everyone was watching from backstage, but Kenny kept saying he wanted to go and help them. He wanted to go and help his friends. But Callis wouldn't let him. The brothers were just standing there watching it, not wanting to really help. Now, Callis refused. He's just stopped Kenny from going out to help them at all. But he whispered something to the Good Brothers and they just disappeared. Now, whilst we were waiting for something to happen or someone to help the Young Bucks, Cutler ran in to try and make the save, but instead he got totally owned by Jake Hager, slammed onto the stage. I mean, he tried, I guess, but he didn't do very well. That was his face after he lost. Jericho and MJF then got the Bucks in their submission hold. So that's obviously Jericho got one of them in the walls of Jericho. MJF got the other one in the Fujiwara armbar. Or what is it he calls it? He's got a name for it. I forget his name for it. And the Bucks are both tapping out. Tapping. Then The Good Brothers very slowly made their way to the ring. Like, just walked. And they walked the inner circle out of the ring. They do nothing. They just are like, are you okay, brothers? They don't really try and save anyone. They just walk out. So now they're outside the ring. Jericho then starts arguing with the Bucks' dad, who pushes Jericho away. Why? I mean, we have a match. I think it's at Revolution. We're going to get the Bucks versus MJF and Jericho for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, because obviously, if we remember right, MJF and Jericho won the Battle Royal, so they have the shot. So this is all building up to the Bucks versus Jericho and MJF, building a bit of drama. Who knows, maybe the Young Bucks' dad's going to get involved in this. They're setting it up for that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens at the match when it comes up. I mean, I could see MJF and Jericho winning the tag team belts from the Bucks. Now, while the Bucks having the belts will help any angle, they really don't need them. They don't need the belts to be the best team in the world. They're the Young Bucks. Whatever angle they're in, they make it anyway. So it could be worth the Bucks giving the belts to MJF and Jericho just to further seed more breakup and dissension within the inner circle. Don't know what's happening. Who knows what's happening? We just got to watch and find out. Next up, we get a gender reveal. Brandy and Cody Rhodes are having a girl. There you go. We find out. Obviously, they can't have a gender reveal party. I think they're a bit silly anyway, but people do. People want to do it. That's cool by me. People can have fun and do what they want. It's a free world. I don't think we all needed to know this, but they've got the ways and means to do it, so why the hell not? Turns out they're having a girl. So Brandy and Cody are having a girl. It's great news for them. Congratulations to the both of them. This moved swiftly into the next match. FTR versus the Seidel brothers. As I said last week, I did not know there was another Seidel brother. So I was interested from the get-go, from the second this was announced. Now, Cody Rhodes was on commentary for this match. He went from the gender reveal right to the commentary position. Everyone's giving him congratulations all round. It's all cool. So everyone comes out, the match starts. My first impressions of Mike Seidel are that he is a solid performer, and he seems to be just as light-footed as his brother Matt. I genuinely cannot believe I have not seen this guy before. I mean, there's always an outside chance that I have seen him, like on indie shows 10 years ago, and I just didn't know he had a different name. This happens. But yeah, I was genuinely surprised by him. Looks like a solid guy. Brilliant. FTR just looked amazing in this match. There were times where Dax looks like he was wrestling in fast forward, except that every part of it was solid, scary, and like precision, millimeter precision on point. I have never seen anyone move that fast, get that crisp and that hard at the same time before. It was like watching some sort of amazing wrestling cyborg. It was outstanding. There was one strange spot in this match. I don't know what happened. It looked like Cash Wheeler was going to tag Dax, but Dax wasn't there. And Cash just kind of walked around in a circle and went back until Dax was there. It was the kind of thing that might be nothing. It looked weird. It looked funny. It looked slightly out of place. So I thought I'd mention it. It didn't hurt the match in any way. Not in the slightest, because they were just beating the shit out of people anyway. It was a bloody good match. I love the FTR in this match. I thought the Seidels were great in this match. I want to see more of the Seidels in the future. I think that is absolutely needed. Everything FTR does just now looks great. Just so satisfyingly brutal. The FTR got the win via the big rig on Mike Seidel. It was a fun match, great performances on all round, which was just the theme of the show, it seemed. After the match, FTR got Doc Samson's bag and they came in the ring. In the ring, they were running about and they pulled out scissors and they go to cut Mike Seidel's hair. See, I mean, I'm sure they're going towards a mask versus hair sort of thing here. But before they could cut Max Seidel's hair, the lights go dark. And we see a video on screen. It is green. We see the old hornless mask of Luchasaurus. And then we see a projection on the wall, a shadow of Luchasaurus. with horns. Now, I was hoping that Luchasaurus would have a new mask. He does have a new mask with horns, but we find out that it is just the same mask as the old one, but I guess they just wanted to keep the same. Now, I was hoping that he would maybe come up with a new, fresh mask design, something they could merch and sell, but the old design works, it's perfect, and if it's not broke, you don't need to fix it. The lights come back on and the Jurassic Express were in the ring, and they beat up the FTR. Simple as that. Simple as that. They beat the FTR up. And yeah, they made the save on Mike Seidel's hair. Now, like I've said last week, I've got a feeling this is building to some sort of hair match or something like that. Now, it was announced on this episode that on the 3rd of March, the Dynamite on the 3rd of March, like the same episode as the Shark match is going to be on, the entire Jurassic Express is going to take on FTR and Tully Blanchard. I know, right? Tully Blanchard in a match. Why not? So who knows what they're building to at the Revolution, or if they're building to something bigger at a later date, because like this match they've announced is 4 days before the Revolution pay-per-view. It could be that as we get something set up on there and they set up a hair match the problem is, right, I'm trying to work out what the FTR would give up on their side of the thing, because they're trying to cut people's hair. So that's like a unusual tease for like a hair versus something match. What do FTR have to put up in place of? They don't have hair, they don't have belts, they don't have anything that could lose to embarrass them. So like the only way I could see this going would be a hair versus loser leaves town match. I don't know. This is just me. This is just headcanon, you know. But there's definitely something building here, and it's not just a straight tag match. So, on next week's show, the following matches were announced. We will see Hangman Page versus Isaiah Cassidy with Big Money Matt. We will see the AEW Women's Tournament semi-final match. Now, the other two first-round matches from the American bracket are going to be on YouTube on Monday. They're going to be doing another Women's Championship show on YouTube. So, on Monday, we will get the last two first round matches, and I think we will get the quarterfinal matches from the Japanese bracket. That would give us 4 matches in total. So we've got 2 matches from the American bracket still to go in the first round, and in the Japanese side of the bracket we're on to the semi-final matches. So okay, yeah, so that's where we're at. That's another show on Monday, basically. We're also going to get Ricky Starks and Brian Cage with Hook versus the Varsity Blondes. Squash! And we will see Jake Hager versus Brandon Cutler. Poor Brandon. They also announced that on the 3rd of March, 4 days before Revolution, we will have the Shaq and Jade Cargill versus Cody and Red Velvet match. As I said, there was a little Shaq and Jade training promo video, but it contained no wrestling and they're fit people. Okay, like, they're fit. We know lots of fit people. I just seen Chris Eubank on TV yesterday. He's very fit, but I don't think he could wrestle a good match. They're not selling me on this match. It's a good thing it's not a pay-per-view match. At Revolution, we also get an update for Revolution. There is going to be a 6-man face of the Revolution ladder match where it's basically Money in the Bank. The winner gets a shot at the TNT Championship whenever they want. It's going to be 6 people in the match. So far, they have announced Penta, Cody, and Scorpio Sky. They're going to be announcing another 3 people as the weeks go on, leading up to Revolution. Of course, this match is the perfect place for a surprise entrance from either Impact or New Japan to come in. I would imagine it's someone from New Japan, because they would want someone that's like, whoa, that's a fucking star. So, I don't know. There's been a lot of rumblings and rumours that Okada is going to be coming to Impact or AEW. If Okada came to AEW, that would be the perfect place for him to come in. I mean, could you imagine it? Could you imagine if Okada came in, won that ladder match, won the TNT Championship, then started going after Kenny Omega, and we got a TNT Championship versus AEW Heavyweight Championship? Oh, that would be so good. Is that not what happened in New Japan? Was Kenny Omega not like the another champion when or am I thinking of Ibushi in Naito? Maybe I'm thinking of Ibushi Naito. Who knows? I digress. So we've also got at Revolution the Sting and Darby versus Team Taz hardcore match, and the women's tournament winner will face Shida for the women's title match. Oh yeah, and the money match. The big money match with Matt Hardy and Hangman Page. It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to Revolution. You know for a fact I'll be reviewing the shit out of Revolution. If there was a way I could do live reviews of pay-per-views, I would, but I'm not going to, because that's just... I think I'd get banned from the internet from that. As it is, I've had my first copyright strike from WWE. It just so happens that it's on a video where I'm slating the shit out of their product. But I mean, that's WWE for you. That's how they act. So, moving on with the show, because we're nearly finished, thankfully. We had a Jon Moxley promo before the main event. Do I need to say this was bloody awesome? Mox promotes his upcoming match against Kenta on New Japan Strong for the IWGP US Heavyweight title. He says, very simply, that he's going to break Kenta's neck, and then after he's done, he's coming for Kenny Omega, and he's taking his AEW Championship back. Hell yes. Bucket loads of yes. Yes! He ends the promo by saying it is almost time to pull the trigger. Ominous. Why is he talking about guns? There's a lot of talk of guns just now. Guns. It's that side. Guns contain bullets. Exactly what trigger is Moxley waiting to pull? And this took us up to tonight's main event. Eddie Kingston, the Butcher and the Blade versus Moxley, Phoenix and Archer. Now, this was a bit of a random match. I mean, it was random, but everyone it was a random match, a randomly booked match. There was no build, but everyone in the match is either a clear ally of someone or has a clear beef with someone else. For instance, we know that Moxley seems to be friends with Archer and he's friends with Phoenix. We know that Archer wants to beat Eddie Kingston up. We know that Archer... it's we know that Eddie Kingston wants to beat Moxley. We know that the whole of Eddie Kingston's family hates Phoenix and want to beat him up and vice versa. So, whilst there's no build, there's a lot of inherent storyline tied into this whole feud. It's not just as random as it seems random from the outset, but when you start looking at it and breaking down, you're like, well, that's actually not that random. This is all people that have a serious beef with each other. So that's cool. It was an extremely good match, but I will say that having to follow a card of such strong matches, you had the women's match, you had the Young Bucks tag match, you had an FTR tag match. I think that by the time we got to this match, eyes were tired. Now, I will say at no point in tonight's show was there anything boring, and there was nothing bad, nothing was wrong, and this was a beautiful, beautiful fight. It just wasn't, in my opinion, the best match of the night, and I think that this match possibly fell foul to its own high level of star power, or just the fact that they were feeding this match into a post-match angle, which they were wanting to close the show with, which I guess, when you look at it that way, it makes sense. But I do think that some of the matches beforehand obviously overshadowed it, and I think sometimes this is always going to happen. My favourite bit of the match, other than the shocking as hell post-match announcement, was the back and forth with Moxley and Kingston at the end of the match. This also was where the finish happened. The match was great. There's so much stuff happened in it. It was outside the ring. It was in the ring. It was all over the shop. It was great. But yeah, my favourite bit was Moxley and Kingston were going at it. Kingston smacks Moxley with the spinning back fist, which you got to remember is Eddie's finisher. Moxley just no-sold it, hit, and Pat returned with a giant lariat, and then picked him up, paradigm shift, end of match. It was brilliant. It was the kind of hard hit, it was Moxley does that thing where he's incorporated a level of the Japanese fighting spirit style into his style, and this is becoming a lot more prevalent in the North American and British styles of wrestling, where people are not selling for 10 minutes. They're remembering that it's a fight. Why would I sell for 10 minutes when that just lets me get beat up? I love it. It's a part of modern wrestling that I'm really starting to appreciate, and people are starting to embrace it as well. And it makes, in my opinion, I'm not going to get into the mise en scène of modern wrestling, but it makes more sense to me that you're trying to win a fight, and you try and win that fight until such time that you're down and you can't move. Psychology. The days of selling moves for 20 seconds are long gone. Long gone. That is not how real fights work. So, the MVP of the match of the night, and the match and the night for me, was this man, Phoenix. I think I say this every week now. The man is fantastic. Like, really, really amazing. Like, the move of the night was the one that I can see above here. Now, did I get it? That's you kind of see what he did there, right? Now, my move of the night was a suicide dive. Like, a suicide dive, really? So, instead of, doing the suicide dive where your arms are like that for balance, catching yourself or whatever, that's what you normally see. The arms will be stuck out, or they'll be out like that a little bit like wings to just help people keep their balance whilst they're going through the air. Not Phoenix. As you can see in the picture above, he basically pulled his arms by his side. He did the run, jumped over the top rope, and then as soon as he jumped, he puts his arms by his side like that, and basically does the flip in a plank position. Like, a suicide plank. How the fuck is that possible? How he managed to do that, land it and not break his neck is amazing. How he has the braveness to do stuff like this just blows my mind. He is inhuman. It is ridiculous how good Phoenix is. Like, just blows me away how good this guy is. Fucking outstanding. So, Moxley had another great show, and I love Moxley. He's great. Post-match, Gallows and Anderson run out and they beat Moxley up. Then they hold him down, or they grab on him and stop him from moving, whilst Kenny comes out with a mic. There we hold it. So Kenny comes out and he proceeds to tell Moxley that he's going to give Moxley his rematch. He's heard that Moxley's coming back for the belt, and he's going to be generous, and he's going to give Moxley the contractual. It's not being generous, it's being legal. It's in the contract, mate. But regardless, yeah, Kenny's going to give him his match, but he's his rematch for the belt, but it's going to come with a stipulation. And this I could not believe it. The main event of Revolution is going to see Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega fight in an exploding barbed wire match. Like, you could not have. I couldn't speak for about a minute after hearing this. I did not expect it. My jaw hit the floor. What an announcement to end the show! Like, I could not believe it. The whole time, Moxley was obviously trying to fight out, but he couldn't. And then after that announcement, he got held down, and Kenny hit him with a huge V-trigger. Kenny was brilliant in this match. This is one of the best promo sort of on the mic segments I've seen Kenny in maybe ever, and especially in AEW, hands down. It was great. He was great. The announcement was great. I just could not believe it. It's like, yeah, an exploding barbed wire match. What the fuck? So yeah, like, my summary of this week's AEW: all matches delivered. In some way, maybe some matches delivered a bit too much for their position on the card, but it's not something we should really nitpick over, because a good show is a good show, a good match is a good match, and if we enjoyed it, then it's a win. The tournament match between Serena Deeb and Rio was as solid as expected. I thought it exceeded my expectations, to be honest. This was followed by awesome matches by the Bucks and the Proud and Powerful, FTRs and Seidel. They were all really good, really competitive matches, really high-paced tag match. There was a lot of high-paced tag action on the show. And as a lover of tag team wrestling, I will always love that. By the time we got to the main event match seemed a bit relaxing in comparison to some of the other matches, but it was great in its own way. It was a lot slower and methodical, and it was a lot more methodical than the matches preceded it. But as I said, it led into a really good post-match show-ending segment. That said, the main event topped the show off with that high-paced brawl and that announcement. It's just
amazing. The announcement, I would say it was like an absolute bomb being dropped in the last minute of the show. I mean, an exploding barbed wire match, as absurd as it sounds, I am so hyped. Like, I am a big fan of like hardcore wrestling and deathmatch wrestling, and the exploding barbed wire match is a proper old school Japanese hardcore deathmatch style. It was like made famous by the promotions IWA and FWA in the 90s. People like Onita, Terry Funk, Cactus Jack, The Sheik, Sabu, have all wrestled in these sorts of matches, and they were always great. The most famous exploding barbed wire match in the world, I believe, would be I think it's the 1995 IWA King of the Death match final between Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. If you've not seen that match, go and see it. It is a genuine it's a classic in terms of hardcore wrestling. It is one of the top, like, absolute classic matches there is, because it's like a proper death match, but it's in the 90s, and it was for a big promotion with a big crowd. Watch it. It's going to be important to watch these things. No doubt we're going to be getting to see clips of exploding barbed wire matches in the next few weeks. Moxley is just made for this sort of match. Kenny Omega is just good in any match. This is going to be insane. Absolutely insane. So yeah, this show gets top marks from me. I think it was a bit of a sleeper because people just weren't expecting that big a show, but it was awesome. I would say go and watch it. It gets 2 thumbs up from me. And that was this week's AEW review. So I can see we've managed to cut 15 minutes off the review. That is awesome. That is really cool. A stitch in time saves 9, as I said. So if you've watched this to the end, thanks for watching. If you've not followed the channel, follow us on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube if that's where you've watched us. If you're on Twitch, you've got a free sub going, send us it, subscribe to the channel. I upload content most days. Come back and see me another day. I'll have more content for you. Have a lovely day, everyone.